in the Spanish media, in sport. Lots of talk about how much money Barcelona are going to be looking to spend. $300 million has been talked about as being a sum needed to be raised. Of course, Matthias de Ligt is a player they have in their sights. Jovic, even Griezmann being talked about. But Sid, I wonder how realistic it is. They're talking about perhaps shifting Coutinho out of there, Umtiti, Rakitic. How realistic is it that they could raise that sort of sum? And isn't this kind of weird timing for this to be coming out?
Yeah, it's slightly weird timing, and obviously, look, part of this will be coming out from the club. Part of it will be some educated guesswork as well. But you have to remember, because we know they're signing Frankie de Jong. We know that they want to get de Ligt in. We know that they want a striker, and that costs a lot of money. And so I think what then happens is you then look around the Barcelona squad and say, OK, who could we afford to lose in footballing terms? Who would generate a lot of money? Now there are some people on the Barcelona board who want to give time to Coutinho. There are others who are saying, you know, let's take the money now while it's there, if indeed it is there. Rakitic is another player along those lines. Now, obviously, on the face of it at least, you ask the Barcelona manager, there's no way he wants Rakitic sold. But, of course, the Barcelona manager, as is the case at most Spanish clubs, doesn't necessarily have the final say on these kind of things. So from a strategic point of view, with the signing Frankie de Jong, say, OK, we need to generate money from somewhere. Rakitic is a possibility. But then, you put these together and you say, OK, but this is your perfect scenario. Your perfect scenario is you get 300 million euros for all these guys. I just don't think it happens. And for what it's worth as well, it's far more difficult to get a lot of money for players when you signal to the world that you're prepared to sell them. The best way to get a lot of money for players is to say, oh, no, absolutely not for sale.
Showing their hand, rather. Meanwhile, in the Real Madrid corner, Sid, the Marca cover all about Gareth Bale. And you had an interesting tweet. You noticed the difference in Zinedine Zidane's responses to questions on the future of Varane, Marcelo and Gareth Bale. Very, very telling. What did it tell you? Tweet it said, I should say, your tweet.
Well, I mean, essentially what happened was that Zidane was asked 3 different questions. So it's important to make that point. These were 3 different questions. In other words, the response was to a particular player in each case, rather than asked about players in the future. So you get the question about Marcelo, and everybody has basically decided that it's over for Marcelo, that he's out of shape, that he hasn't played well, and that Sergio Reguilón has come through and played really, really well. And Zidane says, I really like him. He's really important. I want him to play a lot more games. He even refers to Reguilón as his second choice left back. And you think, wow, this is someone who we thought was out the door. And Zidane is really, really warm. And I think this is the key thing. There's partly an emotional element to this, an intangible element. He's really warm about him. You then get this response about him. You get this response about Benzema. You get this response in particular about Varane. This is the really big one. I don't want him to go. I can't imagine Real Madrid without him. And this is with suggestions that Varane himself wants to walk away. I don't want this to happen. He's then asked about Gareth Bale. So you've had these 2 really warm, really kind of embracing responses from Zidane. And he says, well, there's a lot of games to go. That's what's important now, and we'll see in the summer. I mean, that's basically... Yeah, he can go.
Yeah. It's hard not to read exactly what Sid read into those responses. Is he gone, guys? You think...
Well, I mean, I think, of course, that they want him out the door. But the problem is that there's a contract in place. So if you're Gareth Bale... and
it's not that easy, yeah.
And you have won whatever you have won with Real Madrid and you've achieved what you've achieved with Real Madrid, you can just sit there and say, you know what, I don't really have anything else to accomplish. At least at the club level, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to get paid. And to be quite honest with you, I like being in Madrid. We don't know that. We don't know that about Gareth Bale. And we don't know what is it that he wants. But he has to have flexibility in the decision-making process from his side in order for this to be able to happen, in order for him to be able to walk out the door and go somewhere else.
So just briefly, what sort of clubs are we talking about in terms of clubs that Bale could go to?
Well, look, I mean, it's very simple in a way. There are 3 fundamental problems with Gareth Bale getting a move anywhere or for a club coming in for him. His salary, his age and his transfer fee. And all of those are very high numbers. And that makes it very difficult to find a solution to this.
I think to Ali's point, it is all about Gareth Bale. It's how ambitious he is. Is he happy at Real Madrid? Is he happy just picking up his wages? Is he that type of player? Or does he want to go and still...
If you were a big English team, specifically, if you're a big English team, in the Premier League. Do you take him right now?
It depends on which English team.
Yeah.
Manchester United, I think, is a strong possibility. Right now, I think the best solution for Gareth Bale is for somebody to pick him up on loan, as they did with James Rodriguez and Bayern Munich, who themselves have been linked with Gareth Bale in the past. And at least that way, you get some of his wages off your books and maybe opens up a spot for somebody else. But as Sid rightly points out, I'm not sure who's paying for Gareth Bale, how much you're paying, and then how much you're going to pay in his salary.
Well, let's talk specifically about United. Jadon Sancho or Gareth Bale? Who helps you more get where you want to be right now?
That's a big decision for Solskjaer. I mean, look, Sancho is obviously the future. Yeah. Gareth Bale is the now, and he's 30 in July. How much football has he got left in him? There's no doubt. When he's on form and when he wants to play, Gareth Bale is a spectacular footballer. When you see him play for Wales...
Would you still say spectacular? Now?
Yeah, I would, because when I see him play with Wales and he's in familiar surroundings, he becomes a different character. He's sort of the leader of that team. When he's in Real Madrid, he's not that type of a lad. So I think it all depends on what Gareth wants to do.
To be honest, I think it's a no-brainer. If it came down to that, I think it's a no-brainer, Jadon Sancho.
Sancho over Bale, yeah?
Because...
Even if you're looking to win next year, immediately.
Is that next year?
Well, that's...
Look, even if we're running next year or the year after that or the year after that, I am looking at what the project of Manchester United is going to be. And I need to make an effort into creating an identity about my team. And part of that has to be with the youth movement. Yeah. And that Marcus Rashford becomes the player that you think he can be. And that Jadon Sancho becomes the player that you think he can be. What you bring in with Gareth Bale is the possibility of injuries, which are very likely, are part of the history of him as a player. And you cannot evaluate him without saying, well, we don't know what he can be when he's not fit a lot of the time. Yeah. And then on top of that, then you have to think about, okay, we have Alexis Sanchez sitting there in a very similar situation as to what Gareth Bale is now.
Yeah.
We don't want any of that.
All right, good stuff. We will hear some more from Sid on Extra Time. Remember, your questions, direct that part of the show. Lots to get into today. You can see it on our YouTube channel as well.